My brothers and sisters, you are now watching the Gamer 2323, so just forget about the chores you're supposed to do. Put your feet up, get your Kool-Aid, fried chicken, popcorn, get whatever you may need! And I hope you enjoy the video. Yo, what is going on, my brothers and sisters? Hope you suckers is having a marvelous day today. Last of Us 2. I haven't spoken about this game on this channel really since last year, since I beat the game. Literally, I beat that game and just never went back. Like, it was just too draining. I just knew I could not do like another rerun of it like I did with the first Last of Us. You know, there's no multiplayer, stuff like that. It's been about a year later. You know, we now like a year later since Last of Us 2 dropped and changed the gaming landscape. But yeah, man, Last of Us 2 1 year later. You know, again, this is a really controversial game. You got some people that love this game. You got some people that thought this game was complete trash. I'm kind of in the middle. Like, I don't care what no one says, and I said this in my review a year ago. I don't care what no one says. You cannot act like the gameplay in this game was trash. Like, if we're talking gameplay wise, Last of Us 2 was one of the best games that dropped last year. I loved how they refined the gameplay with just the runners and the clickers, and especially the bloaters, the humans. Like, some of the smartest AI I've seen was in Last of Us 2, especially if you compare it to the human AI that was in the first Last of Us. Like, they definitely made a lot of improvements as far as gameplay wise with Last of Us 2. As far as the story goes, as far as the story goes, you know, I still feel like they dropped the ball on the way the story played out. Not necessarily that the story was bad. The way they had the story play out, the constant flashbacks and going back and forth, the flashbacks and the flash forwards, it just disrupted the pacing of the storyline for me. I'm sorry, I felt that way last year. I still feel like that today. You know, I just feel like they could have did it in a way better way. Shout out to, was it Immortal that said this? Shout out to Brother Immortal, you black bastard. I think it was one of my viewers, Immortal, that said this, that he thought it would have been better if they started the game off with, you know, you're essentially playing as Abby at the beginning of the game, and then, you know, that scene they had to where Abby, well, just after Joel leaves the hospital, right after he kills all of the freaking nurses and like the Fireflies, grabs Ellie and then just dips off, and then that's when Abby like runs in and see her dad die because of Joel. He said, I think that it would have been better if they started the game off like that, and I completely agree. Because if they started the game off like that, with you playing as Abby and you seeing right at the beginning of the game the consequences of Joel's actions, and, you know, then you see why Abby, you know, has that mindset in the beginning of the game, instead of you starting off with Ellie and Dina and then, you know, seeing how it plays out with Joel and Abby, and then later they flash back to see how it happened with Abby when she was in the hospital seeing her dad died. It would have been better, I feel like, if they started the game off like that. But instead, they did that flashback, flash forward junk. It messed it up. Joel dying was, of course, a huge thing about this game that a lot of people did not like. Some suckers was like, what, Joel would never go out like you gonna have Joel die like this? And that was really the thing. In my opinion, if you're gonna kill Joel, fine. I didn't have a problem with Joel dying, but have him die on his own terms, or better than the way that he went out. This sucker went out getting golf clubbed by Abby, and he really had nothing to do. His freaking brother was laid out onto the floor, knocked out, while Ellie watches. And it was just like, listen, if you want to create a villain, you just did. Okay, and the thing was, did you expect, you know, your fans to just get on her side after they played a full game that was just basically all Joel and Ellie? Did you just expect us to like Abby, some people still think that she's a trash character. I said before, I don't even think Abby is necessarily a bad character. It's just the way you like introduced this character and like forced us to, you know, understand her perspective. They could have executed that in a better way. Again, if you're gonna kill Joel, fine. I didn't really have a problem with Joel. Like, he's not my freaking virtual dad or something like that, how like other suckers look at him. I didn't really care. But the way he went out, freaking getting spitted on, puta madre, and he just spit on Joel and stuff, like, that was like, eyes. Like, that was one thing I was like, oh no. Now, you also have to remember, Last of Us 2 was getting major leaks right before the game was about to come out. Like, the whole rollout of Last of Us 2 was a complete disaster. We all seen major plot points and pieces that was going to happen in the game. So a lot of people were already going into Last of Us 2 with a disdain towards Abby and, you know, what the fate was for Joel. Like, people were already going into this game with a negative mind frame. So of course that doesn't help the situation at all. But again, that's the fault of Naughty Dog for allowing that information to get out. But it did have me thinking, like, if those leaks had never occurred and people just went into this game blind, not knowing what was going to happen, and the events played out exactly how they still did in the game, would people have reacted differently to Abby? Would people have reacted differently to what happened to Joel in the game? I'm not sure. For the most part, I still feel like there would have been outrage regardless of how it played out. I thought it would have really been interesting, especially like looking back now. I thought it would have been really interesting if they had us play with Tommy. Because when Tommy was like going across freaking country, just dropping everybody in sight for revenge of his brother Joel dying, like, it would have really been interesting if they had us play with Tommy at some point in that game. You know, instead of always playing, you can make the case that the game is really more so about Abby than Ellie and Joel and stuff. Like, they had us playing more so with Abby in that game than Ellie, if I can remember. You know, and it's not like Abby's gameplay was bad, but sucker, we ain't here to play with you. We don't, we really don't care. So it was the fact that like it kind of turned into Abby's game instead of Ellie, and then how at the end, you know, you was playing with Abby versus Ellie, and then you went back to playing with Ellie versus Ellie. It was like, they could have did that. Like, even just talking about this junk now, I'm just like mentally, it's just bringing me back of how draining that game is. And maybe that's what they was going for. If that's what y'all suckers was going for, I mean, hell, then you did a great job. But yeah, I just thought it would have been really interesting to see the game from his perspective at some point in that game. You know, the whole sniper scene when you was at Abby, and like, it was literally like a better sniper scene that they had in the first Last of Us. But this time it's Tommy and he's trying to snipe you. Like, the way that was executed was great. I thought they also dropped the ball with the Seraphites, I think they were called. Like, I feel like they could have, I don't know, like that religious cult thing, I thought could have been more interesting than it actually was. I thought they could have had like some more backstory to that, and like, you know, how that group came together and why they are the way they are. Like, even with, you know, certain groups that they had it in this game, I thought they could have did more with them. But yeah, man, it's really a good game that could have been a great or a phenomenal game that was just, in my opinion, lacking a little bit of direction and execution at times with the events in this storyline. Again, for me personally, like, I don't think Abby was a bad character. Like, she definitely has like justification of why she did what she did, but you can't just like force what you did like with her in that game, taking out the star of the first game, and like, what, that was like under 2 hours when Joel died. Like, you cannot just introduce a character like that and just be like, yeah, you remember the character you cared about in the first game? Yeah, this ain't this ain't about him. And then say before the game comes out, Joel's story is not finished yet. Like, come on, dog. For the most part, all of the thoughts that I had about this game last year, I still share those same thoughts. You know, gameplay wise was freaking phenomenal. Some of the boss fights that they had, especially like with the Rat King and the Bloater, like I really loved how they had certain sections of Last of Us 2 like really feel more like, even more like horror like in this game compared to you know, the first one. Some of the new characters that they had, like Jesse and Dina, I actually liked both of those characters, but then how they had Jesse like go out, it was just the way they was taking out some characters in this game. I'm like, like what? And don't even get me started how, if you think about it, Jesse's whole purpose in this game really was to be a sperm donor, so Ellie and Dina could have a baby together and live happily ever after. But that's a whole nother story.
He ain't lying.
And yeah, I mean, that's really just still how I feel. You know, do you guys feel the same? I mean, do you feel the same way about this game as you did last year when you first played it? Or has your thoughts changed? Whatever like that. The fact that we still have not gotten even really, we ain't get a word yet on Factions 2. We like received like some little tweets like what last year said, we like received that, but in like reality we've received next to nothing on Factions 2. No updates, no screenshots, no like nothing. When the fact that Last of Us 1 Factions was so successful and it gave people, like it kept people playing your game longer because there was a multiplayer portion of the game. Like, let's not act like Factions was not a huge piece of why people continued and still play the first Last of Us today. The fact that, and I'm not saying that like they're not working on it, but the fact that we've received little to nothing as far as updates, if they're even doing a Factions 2 at this point, like, it's just ridiculous to me. Like, that game can easily, especially with the gameplay that the Last of Us 2 has, that game can, the Factions 2 can easily be one of the most played exclusive multiplayers on PlayStation 5, especially with that 60 frames per second now. Like, what are these suckers doing, dog? Like, honestly, like that a questionably executed game in multiple aspects when you look at it, in my opinion, from the story to the multiplayer to the direction of the game. Like it's just, again, it's not a bad game. I didn't think it was a bad game when I first played. I thought it was a draining game. I never thought Last of Us 2 was a bad game. But yeah, I mean, my thoughts really have not changed at all. I still feel the same way about this game today as I did last year. You know, let me know what you guys feel about Last of Us 2 today. Has your thoughts changed at all? You know, about the whole Last of Us 1 remake that we don't need. I don't know why they... Oh, Jesus. Bro, it's just... Let me know what y'all feel about Last of Us as a franchise. Would you like to see a Last of Us 3? At this point, I would not want to see one. Me personally, I just would not. Anyways, catch y'all in my next video.